Earful Tower listeners, it's another Monday in Paris, and I hate to say it, but it's a very wet and rainy Monday. Maybe you can even hear the rain as I've got the window to the studio wide open because it's still warm. I've got wet feet from filming a walk show for Patreon supporters this morning with Jay Swanson. We were hunting invaders in the Marais. And yeah, I guess the big news for me is that I've been evicted from my apartment through no fault of my own. What does that mean for you guys? Well, it could mean a much longer honeymoon season. So that's something I'm going to talk about at the end of the episode. I'm going to have my fiancée Lena coming into the studio discussing the latest parts of the honeymoon plans. But for now, we're going to be talking about the Père Lachaise cemetery, the most visited cemetery in the whole world. 1 million people are buried there. It's on the east side of Paris. Everything you need to know about it is coming at you right now, thanks to this week's special guest, Joe Start, who literally wrote the book on the cemetery. It's called The Chairfather. So yeah, enjoy the episode. I hope you guys learned something just as I did. Let's get into it.
One man, one country, one red scooter. Here's the Earful Tower with Oliver G.
Joe Start, welcome to the studio.
Hey, thanks, Oliver.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Yourself?
You're looking well.
Am I?
You know, I watched the Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon. They always say you're looking great at the start of the things.
Right.
So I figured I'd do the same.
Well, it must be the green room that you have here. I just, they fixed me up fine.
Yeah, well, they're a good team out there.
Yeah.
How did you find the stairs on the way up?
Oh, it was amazing. If the listeners don't know, we are actually recording at the top of the Eiffel Tower. So it's like it's amazing.
It feels like it. You did. He is joking, of course. I wish we were, but 7 flights of steps. You did stop halfway through. I noticed.
Yeah,
you did the rare pause.
Yes,
yeah.
I had to.
What was that about?
I was getting a little bit sweaty.
Okay,
and I didn't want to give you the wrong impression.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so speaking of things so difficult that they could kill you, we're going to be talking about the most famous cemetery in, could we say Europe?
I'd say all the world. It's the most popular cemetery visited by tourists around the world.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so, who better to talk about it than you, Joe Start, who's literally written the book, and we'll plug the book right now. It's called The Chairfather. Maybe you can explain the name.
Well, The Chairfather is the literal translation of Père Lachaise in English. And it's also kind of like a persona that I adopt when I go around and I have lunch with these fallen famous people, and then tell the story of the interview or the silly things that happened in our encounter.
So for people sitting at home going, "What the heck are you talking about?" What would you say to them? You're having interviews. You know, there's a woman who married the Eiffel Tower. Like, she's kind of an unusual woman.
I didn't know
Are
that.
you somewhat similar to this woman in interviewing gravestones?
Some of the backstory. I'm not sure if it might take too long, but my mom, she lives in L.A. and she's obsessed with celebrities.
Right.
So she'll give me a call, at all hours of the night and say, "Joe, do you know who died?" I was like, "No." And she's like, "Lucille Ball." I was like, "Oh yeah, I know who that is, but I mean, it doesn't mean anything, necessarily to me."
Right.
And then, she'll go away, and then until the next phone call.
She's obsessed with celebrities or celebrities dying?
I think it may be both.
So if I were...
She wants to be the first one to tell me
right.
when a celebrity dies.
Unusual.
And there are actually like websites for this, like the Celebrity Death Watch.
The people who are set soon to die,
that.
right? Yeah, that's pretty morbid stuff.
And even people like the wager, hey, who's going this year?
Yeah.
And there's the odds based upon how old they are. And
so
it's. I mean, I'm not into that, but I was just mentioning that because I think that she could be one of those people.
Well, I was going to say, if I were a shrink, I would say that it's maybe thanks to your mother that you've written this book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all due to her.
So what I thought is we'd sort of give the ultimate guide. How many times have you been inside this cemetery?
Oh, hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So let's paint a picture together. I can help you on this bit. The
Okay.
Père Lachaise, correct me if I'm wrong, 20th arrondissement.
Yes.
So we're in the east of Paris.
Yes.
Huge.
Outside the city, a couple hundred years ago.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So outside the city, 800 years ago, it was well outside. Anyone that listened to my most recent episode about the Paris city walls, that's miles away.
Right.
But yeah, so tourist destination. A lot of people go out there to find Oscar Wilde and
Yes.
Jim Morrison and Edith Piaf.
Of course.
Now, that's about everything I know. So maybe you could take over.
Well, first of all, the place is huge. I mean, it's about the size of, I think I've got my measurements correct, more than 40 football fields. It's just enormous, and there's more than 1 million people buried there.
Wow.
So it's just, it became like, well, I mean, it was, first of all, fascinating to me to visit this part of Paris, which I hadn't known, and then I got a job that was right nearby, and so I could go there for lunch every day.
What was the job? Undertaker?
No, it was something to do with tech. It's nothing to do with tourism or anything.
Right. And then you spend your lunch breaks popping over there and visiting the dead celebs?
Yeah. And what I would do is I would take selfies of myself, sort of having lunch with these people, and I put that in a photo book to give to my mom for Mother's Day.
Right. She would have loved it.
Yeah. And she did love it, but that didn't stop her. She would still keep calling and everything like that, and tell me, because there's always celebrities dying. It's a tragic fact of life, but they need to be creating more celebrities because the old ones keep dying.
Well, if you sell enough books, you'll be the next celebrity.
Maybe.
Do you want to be buried in Père Lachaise? Can you be buried?
You can. I mean, they say that the place is full, but in fact, people's lease comes up or things like that, and there are
the rent. You haven't paid your rent. I was in there fairly recently, and I saw a gravestone for one of the victims of the Paris terror attacks at the Bataclan.
Yeah.
So the people very recently being buried in there.
Yeah, I saw one 2018 when I went there. I think maybe even Chemin Denon, which is one of the more popular avenues over there.
Right.
So yeah, it is still possible to be buried there. But I mean, one of the rules is that you have to die in Paris,
right,
or you have to be French.
Okay, so that's how Jim Morrison got in there, because he died in the Marais, as I remember it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, there's some question about where exactly he died, because his body was found in the bathtub of the apartment that he shared with his girlfriend at the time in the Marais.
Yeah.
But some people think that he took a large amount of drugs at some place which is called the Rock and Roll Circus, which is I think Saint-Germain-des-Prés, just the other side of the river.
Right.
And then his body was transported. But I just don't see, a bunch of drunk people, transporting a body over to the apartment.
No, that's weird.
Yeah,
that's weird. That's kind of one of the fun. That's one of the facts or the interesting stories about Père Lachaise that we're going to get into in a sec. The fun and juicy and interesting stuff. But I wanted to take it right back to basics about when, because a lot of people who listen to this show are tourists or plan to come to Paris or love Paris. I want you to give me the sort of official tip, give the listeners the official tip for how to visit the cemetery. I mean, you said it's huge.
Yes.
So that might be off-putting for people right from the start.
Exactly. And maybe that's why either a lot of people don't go, or the people that do go, they don't necessarily have the experience that they were hoping for, because they get lost and they don't find their way, and they don't find the people that they're looking for. And if they do find a grave or two, it's kind of like, well, what am I doing here? But the experience is completely different if you go with a guide. And I'm a guide. I have a series of tours that I've produced, actually 2 of 3, and the third one's going to be released later this month or next month.
These are audio tours, right?
These are audio tours. But what my tours do is they couple an app called Voice Map with a description and such. So you have this sort of whole audio experience which is happening, which not only helps you find the graves, but you can also learn about the lives of the people that you're visiting, or maybe some funny stories about either the gravesite itself or things like that. And but another guide, if it's a person that's knowledgeable about Père Lachaise, that would be absolutely the way to go.
So your audio guide, is it like geo? What do you call it? Geolocation as well? So you're standing somewhere,
I don't know what it's called,
hey,
but
you're here.
Yeah, what it does is it turns on the audio at the right time.
Yeah.
And this is really important because, I did a blog post about, there's the 5 tourists that you find at Père Lachaise, and you only want to be one of them, the guy that goes around with a guide.
What's the blog called?
Startgoingplaces.com.
Startgoingplaces.com. There you go.
Yeah.
It's ingrained in everyone's memories now.
So the thing with GPS, people think, I can just get an app, or I can get a map or something like that. Well, GPS is accurate within 10 meters, one way or another. So do you know how many graves you can have.
Too many, Joe.
More than 100.
Yeah.
More than 100. So you're within an area, where if you want to do concentric circles to eventually get to the place that you're looking for, you can do that. But a lot of people think that that's a waste of time.
But also the internet's quite bad in there, because we were going to do, you and I were going to do a live, one of the walk shows that I do for the Patreon supporters. We were going to do one in there, but it's not reliable. I've tried to do stuff in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a video that's pre-recorded. We're going to we're going to do a That's something to tune in for you guys later. We're going to go and do we've given awards to Joe's and my own favorite graves, or for example, the ugliest tombstone or the top celebrity and stuff like that. But that's something
the biggest bulge.
The biggest bulge. Oh, there's a little spoiler alert. But let's aside from tours, let's say you're dead broke.
Yeah.
And you're on a budget. You walk in.
Yeah.
How would you, and you're like, I want to spend a good hour and a half here.
Right.
Give me the 30-second answer. What should I do?
Arrive early because it opens at like 9 a.m. and there were very few people there at that time. I mean, that's the first thing, especially because it's very, very large, and only on the periphery of the walls are you going to find water. Well, actually, you find drinking fountains throughout, but you need to take a bottle of water with you. But there's no food or drink inside, and only toilets on the periphery. And you may be if you get lost, it may take you quite a while before you find
you might never come out again.
No, you may just be reserving your spot.
Yeah. And do you think is there any that you have to go see graves that are just don't miss this one if you're only going to go there for an hour?
Oh, there's tons of them. I mean, some of the ones I think that we're going to be filming are just visually stunning and pleasing. What you have to understand is that Père Lachaise is the world's largest open air museum.
Right.
There are more than 1,000 sculptures in Père Lachaise.
Yeah.
And these may be ones just on the tombs or on your way to visiting the tombs and such, and they're just amazing by fantastic sculptures. In fact, for some of them, the sculptor is more famous, I think, than the person who's buried underneath. And
what do you think about people that go for their morning runs, their morning jog in there? How do we feel about that?
I don't think it's very good, but I mean. Who am I to say? I mean, I'm the least respectful
you're in
person.
There taking selfies with the dead.
Exactly.
That could be against an old law or something in France.
I've checked it out. It's okay.
But you often do see people running. I often wonder because there's quite cobblestones in there. It can't be a great place to run.
No. It's the best surfaces are the cobblestones, and then you get into the dirt and the mud and stuff like that. I'm really not painting a great picture of this, but
no,
really
you are. Of course you are.
But the stories and the sights that you see there are just amazing. It's been continually fascinating to me, and I think that I would love for anybody who comes to Paris to visit Père Lachaise.
Yeah. I have a friend that lives near. He lives near Père Lachaise, and he has a friend that lives right on the gate of it, sort of right near the edge of it. And he said that at nighttime, sometimes they climb over the fence and go for a nighttime wander there, and there's all kind of foxes and stuff in there.
Oh yeah, there's lots of wild animals and such. But what's interesting is like the birds. I mean, in almost any other place of Paris, there's tons of different varieties of birds. But in Père Lachaise, it's almost like it's overrun by the crows, which just makes it even spookier.
That's interesting because the crow is the harbinger of death, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like it's very like what a perfect bird to be hanging out in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crows in. Have you been to what's the other cemetery in Montparnasse Cemetery?
Montparnasse, yeah.
Lots of crows around there, and they really if you chase them, not saying I chased them, but if you chase them, try to get a good picture, they just kind of walk away. They walk through all.
Right.
Yeah, they're freaky, those crows in Montparnasse. Anyway. Where were we? Yes, you came armed with stories of some interesting deaths as well.
Yeah,
I wonder
absolutely.
if you could tell me a story of maybe a favorite death of someone that's in the cemetery.
Oh, my favorite one is a bit risque, so you may want to hide the children.
Yeah,
and such.
Hide the children. We'll give you a second to do it, and when you've hidden them, come back. Yeah. Okay, what's the story?
Well, before Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, there was Felix Faure and Marguerite Steinhal.
Mm-hmm. Are they politicians?
Felix Faure was the president of France from 1895 until 1899.
Okay.
So during the Dreyfus affair and stuff like that. So he didn't have a fantastic track record. But the interesting thing was how he died. So he goes into his office, and of course he has his mistress with him because hey, it's the Belle Epoque. Everybody's got a mistress. Everybody's having a little bit of fun between meetings.
Yeah, between the sheets, between the meetings. Yeah,
and all of a sudden there's this scream that happens. This woman's scream, and the staff runs in, and they see Marguerite with the president with his pants down, and he has just died. He has just died. I think it's called anaplasty or something like that.
Right.
So it's like this is the way you want to go.
Right.
It was by a little servicing by Marguerite orally,
Right.
of the president.
The kids are gone. The kids have been hidden. You can say what you want.
Okay, so I can say
Oral pleasure.
Oral pleasure for the president.
Yeah, right.
So then, not just like the press, but the fellow rivals, politicians, had a field day with this. And so there's one quote by Georges Clemenceau. In French, it goes, Il voulait être César, il fut que Pompée.
Right.
Okay, so he wanted to be Caesar, but he ended up being pumped.
Oh my.
And so this is like a term for the act that happened. And then so this woman, she eventually got the nickname of le pompe funèbre, which is like this is what we call the funeral ceremony, les pompes funèbres.
Right.
But pumping is a whole different verb in this sense, and so the name kind of stuck with her.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And what, are they both buried in there?
No, she's not buried there. I think she eventually went to London, and there was another case with her. I was reading on Wikipedia that she actually was accused of murder. Going back in London. So, kind of a woman that courted trouble wherever she went.
Jiminy crickets.
Yeah.
Yeah. She killed a president off as well. That's a kind of murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
So Felix Faure is found in Père Lachaise.
Has he got a good grave as well?
Yeah, well, he's like lying down. It's a sculpture of him above his tomb, and so a sculpture of him kind of like on his deathbed, which I think is just extra funny because you can imagine this is how they found him.
All right, I want to do a series of quick questions.
Okay.
That aren't scripted for you or me, so who knows what's going to happen now.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know what your favorite favorite tombstone, one that you could go in there again and again and see.
I just love Georges Méliès. He is the guy that inspired the Martin Scorsese film The Invention of Hugo Cabret, and he was essentially the inventor of special effects in cinema. He did the movie A Trip to the Moon, where he like hand colored every single frame to make this a color film. To do a whole bunch of sight gags and special effects and stuff like that. So he really was ahead of his time and did it for the love and for the pleasure of the thing, because he wasn't a great businessman, and in fact part of why he didn't have success afterwards is because he didn't really protect or defend his creations,
right.
And there was a rampant sort of piracy at the time, including by Thomas Edison. That made more money from his films than he did.
And why do you like that one? Is it because of the story, the person, or the tomb?
Oh, the tomb. He's got a fantastic bust, and you can just you can see the sort of twinkle in his eye, and how he's sort of magical. I put him on the cover of my book because I just love the sculpture. I love the look of him. I love the backstory.
Is that the one where he's holding a wine with you? Is that the picture?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what is that? He's got one hand reaching out of the stone, sort of.
Exactly. So we're clinking glasses, and
Yeah.
I'm sort of like toasting and roasting.
Yeah.
The departed at Père Lachaise.
That book is The Chairfather. Okay, next question. Which is the most overrated tomb in there?
It's kind of easy to say, Jim Morrison,
Yeah.
because there's not a lot to see there.
Yeah.
When he died, his girlfriend was here. She was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do now? I'm far from the family. I'm far from home. I don't know anything." And so she went over and she bought the cheapest plot that she could buy, which I think was like the equivalent of $600 or something like that at the time, and it's packed in between all these other tombs.
Yeah, it's not even like it's not next to a footpath or sidewalk or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of tucked in behind everything, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So just to get close to it, you would need to sort of breach hollowed ground and maybe like walk over a couple tombs or things like that, which didn't bother a lot of his fans like in the 70s and 80s and such. But eventually, the authorities put these sort of gates around it and stuff like that. So you're still 20 feet from the grave to actually see it, and there are so many graves where they have a great backstory, but you can feel like, okay, I'm having like an intimate moment. I'm having this memory with this person that I learned about their life from. But this one is sort of like, no, stay back.
Yeah. Interesting. What about what's the hardest one to find?
Well, that one would be the hardest one to find if there wasn't always 20 people around it.
That's the trick, isn't it? You just follow the people and you'll find Jim Morrison.
Right.
But are there other ones that are like, I know that there are tricky ones to find that are worth finding?
Yeah, definitely. The one that I like the best, which is the hardest to find, they call it the Tomb of the Dragon.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So this was the first of the 1,000 sculptures that was placed within Père Lachaise. And it's actually a cenotaph, which means that the dead isn't there. It's just a monument to that person who's elsewhere.
Right.
And the backstory is it was a soldier, an only son who was killed in combat in one of Napoleon's armies in a combat in Poland. But his mother was so sad and she felt so much for her son that she had this sculpture commissioned. And then all these words that were sort of like flowing from her and emotions from her. But if you see the dragon's tomb, it's just this amazing sculpture and lifelike appearance of her son, and you can just tell all the emotion that was put into that to create that. And because the dead isn't there, you can actually move this thing around. And so what happened is the Bonapartists used to sort of gather around this stone, and the cemetery people wanted to sort of stop that. So they placed it in this wooded area, which is surrounded by a lot of other tombs. So it's not really on a path or anything like that, and you need to sort of like go in between a couple of tombs to actually get there. But it's really worth the effort because it's an amazing work of art. It's protected by the national treasures and everything like that, and it's to see that as the very first sculpture in the park, which sort of maybe that set off a trend, and then now all these other artists just added their works to this wonderful park.
Intriguing. That is something. All these things that Joe's mentioned, I'm going to put in. I'm going to put down on the earfultower.com for people to be able to find. And you know what we haven't talked about is, and to sort of wind things up. Actually, time's flying by. I wanted to ask you what's next, but considering you've already written 2 books, we didn't even talk about your first book.
Oh yeah, first one's a French license about my experience as an expat for the first 10 years in France.
Driving and getting your driver's license, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the theme throughout, and just all the sort of hairy details that you need to go through to do that. I mean, people in other countries just wouldn't believe the hoops that you have to jump through to get one over here.
I can't even imagine. That's why I've got a scooter. No need to worry about that kind of stuff.
No license required.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask, what's next? What's the next book going to be? You've covered cars, graves. What's the next step?
Well, in doing some of the research for Parmentier, which is one of the guys that you visit on, I guess it's my tour 2. He was the guy that popularized the potato in France and then, of course, in Europe. And by doing so, his effort was to try to eliminate, famine. But in fact, by introducing this into the plates of French cuisine, we have all these other things which are now sort of identified culturally with the cuisine of not just France, but all over Europe and such. And so I wanted to explore that in sort of maybe a series of books that is, it doesn't come from here, but it became part of the fabric.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's something to look forward to. You are Joe Start. You've been talking about Père Lachaise. We're going to meet again at the Père Lachaise Cemetery for a
Let's
video.
do it.
Which I should say to you listeners, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, right now is the time to do it. Go on YouTube, find the Earful Tower, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos, and one of the next ones is going to be with Joe Start. So until then, Joe, thanks for coming into the studio. It's been fascinating talking to you.
Thank you for inviting me on the Earful Tower, Oliver.
You're listening to the Earful Tower podcast.
Well, that was Joe Start talking about Père Lachaise. Hang on, who's it?
Hello.
Lena!
Surprise!
Did you see Joe on the way up from the...
Yeah, actually, we met in the staircase, which it was troublesome because it's very slim.
I feel
Not that he's not slim.
I feel like you're lying.
I'm lying. I never met the man, but I've heard his voice, so I feel like I met the man.
Good episode, huh?
It was great.
Do you feel like you learned something?
Definitely.
So, trip to Père Lachaise after this?
Yeah, pack the picnic basket.
No, we can't be picnicking in Père Lachaise.
No, you're right.
It's probably illegal.
I've seen some people jogging, and I'm not sure where I stand on that.
I said the same thing in the episode.
I know.
Yeah. What do you think about Joe taking selfies in there?
That's okay.
Selfies are okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Anyway, we didn't come here to keep talking about Père Lachaise.
No.
We came to discuss, well, as I said at the start of the interview, we've been evicted.
Oh, no. It's so sad.
Our own apartment, well, it's not ours. The apartment we're renting has been sold from under our very feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they gave us 3 months to clear out.
Mercilessly.
And the date of us having to move out is right in the middle of the honeymoon. In other words, we're going to come back to nothing.
To nothing. To a storage unit, hopefully.
For you guys who have no idea who Lena is or what we're talking about, maybe it's the first time you listen to the Earful Tower. Lena, my fiance, and I, we're going to get married in the summer. We're going to do a big trip around France, and we're going to share a lot of it with you guys.
As a honeymoon.
Yeah, did I not mention honeymoon?
I don't think so.
It's the honeymoon trip. It's the Tour de France, but it's the Amour de France. We're going to be on a scooter. Lena's brilliant idea. Not just the wordplay, but the scooter, everything.
Well, I love a good gimmick.
The good news about it, even though we've been kicked out of the apartment...
mercilessly.
Yeah, she says again. Even though we've been kicked out.
I'm not bitter.
Yeah, mercilessly. They don't listen to the show.
No, it's okay.
It means, though, as we don't have a place to come back to, that we can take as long as we want on the trip. So I think
Free as a bird.
We saw it as good news. We were smiling when they told us, and we went and had champagne
We
afterwards.
actually did. This is fact.
We went to a rooftop bar, the Perchoir, best bar in the 11th hour.
Yeah,
This one, if you ask me.
had a cocktail in the light rain.
Yeah, put it all
As
on
the sun
on
went
Instagram if you guys don't follow that. Also, it's something to celebrate. We're going to have a longer honeymoon, I think. But the reason that you're in here now is because we wanted to talk just a little bit about the honeymoon.
Just a little update on the planning.
Yeah, so full disclosure, Lena and I have just spent half an hour giving a detailed audio podcast version of the first week, what we planned for the first week.
And boy, is it good.
Well, it's amazing.
It's a good week.
If we can do all the things that we mentioned.
This is the week of dreams, actually.
The week of dreams.
Yeah.
Week or dreams. So we did an episode for the Patreon supporters. If you're a Patreon supporter, the lowest level, $1 a month, you're now going to get behind the scenes, all these extra audio episodes. Now's a good time to sign up, especially because while we're on the road, this will be my career. So $1 a month would help. But I'm not begging you. If you want to do it, do it. But what we talked about was this first week, Lena.
Yes.
And maybe you can give me a little rundown of the kind of
Well,
stuff.
a couple of highlights. Okay, so one of my highlights is that, as I do love a good gimmick, is that I would like to taste the sweet whipped cream that in its actual birthplace, which is Chantilly.
Chantilly, yeah.
Just outside of Paris, actually.
Which is
and that is day one of our trip.
And that's one of the very few things that is 100% sure.
Yes. That is booked.
Yeah,
that's locked
booked.
in.
Courtyard Chantilly was very kind to provide their Airbnb, which you guys are going to see if you're following. That's exciting. I was excited about, what was it, the hairy Hungarian... What were they?
The woolly pigs?
The woolly pigs.
Yes.
Yeah, we found a really cool place with some amazing accommodation and chateau and animals in a town called Canon, Canon. We talked about that as well.
Yeah. Another good thing. Are you done? by the way. Oh,
No.
you're not done.
Oh, no, I am done. Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot.
Okay, another good thing is that we're going to Deauville by the coast.
You were excited about Deauville.
I am excited because it's where the one and only Coco Chanel first set up shop. She started selling hats for the ones of you who didn't know that. And she often frequented this place, and it kind of was made popular in the 20s and as
Like
a resort for
the wealthy,
Parisians.
or
Yeah,
what?
for the
Yeah.
wealthy Parisians.
And I feel like it's still for the wealthy. It might be
I think
expensive
so.
for us. We're going to be in a tent out the front of that royal hotel
With
there.
binoculars looking into the steaming hot chocolate.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But
That'd be good though.
Let's leave it as a teaser. If you guys want to sign up, if you want to hear all the cool stuff we've really laid out the first week of the trip, if you don't want to support the show but you enjoy listening to it, consider leaving an iTunes review. Consider sending me an email with some tips for places we should visit.
Oh yeah, much appreciated
Yeah,
actually.
because we've been getting some brilliant email suggestions from people. Everything including cowboys in the south of France, tapestry places in the north of France.
Yeah, things that we didn't know existed.
Exactly. And the whole point of this, of us sharing this honeymoon trip, is to showcase the rest of France. I spent a year doing Paris. I want to show you guys the rest. Send me your recommendations. Especially if anyone out there has got an empty chateau, I'll mow your lawns. Let us stay for the night. It's probably going to be an expensive trip. But hey, it's a honeymoon. We're going to go all out.
Yeah, once in a lifetime.
But as for now, should we hit the road on the scooter now, through the rain, go home?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, plan some more of this honeymoon.
Week 2 maybe.
There's also a wedding to plan, by the way.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. As I mentioned in the episode about Père Lachaise, there's going to be a video coming. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Me and Joe, we're going to be giving out awards to our favorite cemeteries. You got any favorites, Lena? Favorite tombstones, I should say.
Victor Noir.
Victor Noir. Oh, that was a spoiler alert in the episode about Victor Noir and the bulge. If you don't know what we're talking about, check the video on YouTube. Otherwise, thanks for listening to the Earful Tower. There'll be a new episode on Monday, and I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.